So, when you think about marriage, what comes to mind? Maybe things like contracts or partnership or even just pure emotion. But what if the best way to understand it is through a living, breathing metaphor? Today, we're going to explore marriage as a garden, a space that's literally designed for growth, for beauty, and for fruitfulness.
And this right here is the idea that's going to anchor our whole conversation. The source material frames marriage not as something we have to build from scratch, but as a garden that God Himself plants. Our role isn't to create it, but to tend to what He's already started. And you know what? That one idea changes absolutely everything.
Okay, so if it's a garden, how in the world are we supposed to tend it? Well, the Bible, particularly in Ephesians chapter 5, gives us two really distinct but beautifully complementary instructions. And this isn't some kind of cosmic chore list. It's more like a description of two different ways we get to cultivate the very same soil together. All right, let's jump in with the first call, which is directed to husbands. And the metaphor here is just so powerful. The husband's role is like that of the gardener, the one who's responsible for preparing this soil and setting the kind of climate where life can actually thrive. So that first command, it's to nourish. And what's so interesting here is the distinction that's being made. I mean, think about it. A gardener can't force a plant to grow, right? You can't just stand there and yell at a seed to sprout. The job is to create the conditions for growth, to make it not just possible, but really, really likely. So what does this nourishing thing look like in practice? Well, for starters, it's about paying really close attention, actually studying her soul. It's an active spiritual partnership, like praying with her, not just for her. And it's also being a protector, pulling out the weeds of burnout and loneliness so she has the space to flourish. It is, quite literally, tilling the soil of the heart. Okay, now for the second command, to cherish. If nourishing is all about the soil and the roots, then cherishing is all about the climate. It's the warmth, it's the sun, it's the shelter. You can have the best, most nutrient-rich soil in the world, but if it's freezing outside, nothing's going to grow. That's cherishing. At the end of the day, cherishing is about the feel of the home. It's strength, but it's wrapped in gentleness. It's that feeling of safety a wife has in her husband's presence, knowing she's valued and protected, not constantly being pressured or sized up. This is the warmth that makes all that growth possible. All right, so let's pull this all together. You've got nourish on one hand and cherish on the other. Nourish is all about the roots, the foundational work of tilling the soil. Cherish is all about the climate, that essential warmth and safety. And you really, really need both. One creates the conditions for growth, and the other creates the safety in which to grow. Okay, so that's the husband's role. Now let's flip the coin and look at the wife's complementary part in all this. If the husband is the gardener, then her role is kind of like the plant itself, actively responding to the care it's given, softening the soil, and turning toward the light. So the first call for a wife is to respect. And right away, we have to be super clear about what this means and what it doesn't mean. This isn't about blind obedience or being a doormat, not at all. The source material calls it a posture of the heart, an inner inclination, a default setting that leans toward support, not resistance. So, what does that heart posture look like in real life? Well, it's choosing to believe the best about him. It's speaking with gentleness. It's bringing up real concerns, but with humility, not with accusation. And it's actively encouraging his attempts to lead spiritually. In our garden metaphor, this is what softens the soil, making it receptive and ready to be tended. And that brings us to the second call, which is to trust. This flows right out of respect. But listen, this trust isn't primarily in our husband's ability to be perfect, because, spoiler alert, he won't be. It's a trust that's ultimately resting in God's good design for marriage, even when things are messy and imperfect. What this looks like then is actively fighting off those fear-based reactions. It means welcoming her husband's imperfect efforts instead of critiquing every little mistake. It's a conscious choice to lean toward unity and away from division. It's the plant turning its face toward the sun, even on a cloudy day, trusting that the light is still there. So let's put these two together just like we did before. Respect is what softens the soil, that internal posture that's inclined towards support. And trust is what leans toward the light, that active response to imperfect leadership based on faith in God. One prepares the heart, the other acts out of that preparation. Okay, we've talked about the gardener and we've talked about the plant. But you know what? There's this huge, crucial piece we haven't touched on yet. What is it that protects this entire garden? What provides the overarching environment where any of this is even possible? Well, that would be the greenhouse of grace.
And here it is, the big reality check for every single marriage. We're talking about two sinners trying to love each other. And it's so easy to hear all this and just feel crushed, right? Like, well, I fail at that constantly. And that's exactly the point. We're not talking about two perfect people. We're talking about marriage as the very place we get changed for the better. And because that's the reality, you know what's going to happen. Your desires are going to clash. Your unspoken expectations are going to get exposed. Selfishness is going to pop up. This isn't a sign your marriage is broken. It's the very platform where grace is meant to be lived out. And it means repentance can't be some rare, dramatic event. It has to become the normal, healthy rhythm of the relationship.
But this is the absolute heart of it all. The model for this whole thing is Christ and the church. Think about that for a second. Christ didn't wait for a perfect bride. He chose an imperfect one. And it's his very love that is making her beautiful. That's the grace that covers this entire garden.
So the takeaway here is huge. The goal is not, I repeat, not perfect performance. A husband is going to fail to nourish and cherish. A wife is going to fail to respect and trust. Growth doesn't happen when we finally stop failing. It happens when we get really good at returning to the cross, together offering and receiving forgiveness over and over again. All right, so when you've got these roles happening and it's all inside this amazing greenhouse of grace, what's the result? What does the harvest actually look like? What's the fruit that grows from this kind of garden?
I mean, look at this contrast. The whole vibe of the marriage just shifts. Coldness and pressure are replaced by warmth and nutrients. That knee-jerk defensiveness gives way to confession. Instead of rivalry, you get gentle leadership and glad support. Demands are replaced by grace. And maybe best of all, that feeling of resignation gives way to real, tangible hope. Okay, that picture is beautiful, right? But let's be real. For some of us, it might feel a million miles away. What if you look at your own marriage and all you see is hard, dry soil? What if it feels like the weeds have totally taken over? And this is where the ultimate hope comes in. Because here's the secret. Your marriage isn't ultimately held up by your performance, but by your Redeemer. Christ is the master gardener. He is the one who can till the hardest of hearts, who can warm the coldest affections and bring life where there seems to be absolutely none. Our efforts are real and they are important, but they are not ultimate. His work is. And that leaves us with this incredible, powerful promise. This whole beautiful, difficult, glorious project of marriage is ultimately in His hands. Our job is to tend the soil, yes, but He is the one who guarantees the sun will shine and the rain will fall, transforming even the most difficult ground into a garden that displays His grace.